This episode of 60 Miles from Anywhere is about ego and the publishing racket. Every once in a while, I try to put up some things that I know about writing and things that I've learned along the way. So it's not just travel stories and ASMR stories to bore you into sleep. I hope you enjoy this one. And if you like what you've been hearing on my site, please like and comment on my website, 60milesfromanywhere.com, where you're also going to find stories on my blog, as well as insights about the creative writing process and my travel stories. My fiction is available on Amazon.com. My book is called Song of the Cinder, and it would make a great holiday or birthday present to that lover of fantasy, alternate history, or horror in your life. If you like what you've heard, your donation to support this podcast, you can find a link on my website, and it's always appreciated if you click on the Buy Me a Coffee link and donate whatever you'd like. I'm also an affiliate with Origin USA, a company that makes boots, jeans, martial arts gear, and all kinds of other things that are 100% American-made. Click the link on my website and use the code Harris10 for your 10% off purchase coupon. So let's begin with, this one is about ego and the publishing racket. You just know your story is good. The way it makes you feel when you read it, the way it sounds when you speak it out loud. You know, if you just had half a chance, you'd be reading it in a best-of anthology somewhere. And you've read enough of those to know what works and what doesn't. So why isn't your work making the cut? There's a couple reasons for this, and very few of them have much to do with talent. Somewhere out there in the world is the best manuscript ever written, sitting in someone's desk drawer. The misconception is that whoever wrote it doesn't have the courage to submit it, and so their genius will never see the light of day. That's a steaming load of horseshit. So many factors have to line up just for a writer to sell their story. A lot of the blame is placed on the writer. You'll read comments from editors about the slush pile and how most submissions they get could benefit from running their work through a spell check or simply knowing the basics of grammar. It's true that a lot of people don't understand that your story should be as polished as possible before you submit it somewhere. But if you've been submitting stories, you've already figured that out. Plenty of editors don't run their own slush piles. They have interns or subordinates reading the submissions, and that kind of help is transient at best. Many interns aren't there long enough to make a difference, and have as much experience reading fiction and knowing what to look for as they accuse writers of not knowing what to produce. Those editors who do read at least the first paragraph of every slush piece do so out of an obligatory duty to their job. You're lucky to have even a paragraph to get them hooked. Which is another reason the slow burn read is dying out. Writers are expected to get those hooks in early for readership with an attention span cultivated by TikTok, Instagram, and whatever instant gratification monkeys at the cocaine dispenser app has just dropped. 75 years ago, guys were reading A Tree Grows in Brooklyn at the bottom of their foxholes as someone was shooting at them. A book like that would probably not be published today. Editors also jump from publication to publication too, leaving a pile of writing for the next poor bastard to come around and take up the mantle. Usually they just shit-can everything in the to-be-read pile and send out thoughtful form letters of rejection if they send out anything at all. The next little tidbits of information are very hard pills to swallow and are just asking for a lot of hate. Some editors are more interested in publishing their friends than they are about finding new talent. They can fill up a table of contents with pals they've met online or at conferences who are no more remarkable than anyone else. It's an old boys club. This is applicable to a lot of professions. Just because you have the job doesn't mean you are actually any good at it. I've met some editors who I wouldn't let check a fourth grader's spelling homework, and they are out the conventions, their names are on the anthologies, and they make a decent living off gatekeeping whatever genre, magazine, publishing house, etc. they have haunted for the last few decades, cranking out more of the same stale old crap. But somehow they are always around, more like a celebrity who gets invited, and their mere presence must be indicative of their genius. Lots of new writers start off with beginnings they know, or worse yet, beginnings their creative writing teachers and fellow students congratulated them on. Lots of cool cinematics of someone lighting a cigarette. Lots of looking at themselves in the mirror and describing the character. What you read in anthologies is already stale by the time it's published, and most of the examples of good writing you get in high school or college are downright fossilized. Writers' groups aren't much better. In my experience, most writers' groups are populated with people who are just starting out, and they have the jitters over letting other people read their stuff. That's normal. But if you want to do better, you're going to have to curate your writers' group experience a little better. And don't get into a group with one well-known writer who expects everyone to sit at their feet like they're receiving the wisdom of the Buddha. You might also notice that a lot of the newer books out there have a funky, unusual style, and they're getting greenlit, even though you give up about 40 pages in and wonder what the hell you've been reading. Chances are those books are the result of somebody's MFA program. When you're working on your Master of Fine Arts degree, it's for the intention of taking a couple of years just to write a book. That's their dissertation, only with an MFA it's a creative work. It also gets run through the grinder of a committee who all have notes on what you were doing. By the end of the process, you have a book, and chances are you also have a contact in the publishing world who's going to jump at the chance to have a peer-reviewed book, a work of fiction to choke down the throats of the consumers. You might have noticed that books of this kind all have the same kind of political pretense, beating the reader over the head with whatever ideology they're cranking out at the sausage factory called the Academy of Higher Education. These books are edgy for the sake of edginess. They are full of cliched characters and new skins that are designed to break new ground. Most of the time, the writing in these stories is so opaque that outside of the MFA program, many readers give up, feeling stupid and alienated. Who wants to read a manifesto without any sense of wonder, pathos, or poetic license anyway? Professors have been jerking each other off in academia for generations. The entire thing is inbred, constipated, and painfully out of touch with what people actually want. And since the graduates of these fine institutions have their names on the mastheads of most publications, well, you see where this is headed. Lots of books are being bought because they're important, instead of actually being any good. Not that I'm all that my damn self. The biggest problem that's on the head of the writer themselves is having an ego without having the chops to back it up. This is the kind of writer who got straight A's in their composition and writing classes. This is the writer whose mom or significant other has read all their stuff and they're too polite to say anything that they actually think. Or they're afraid of damaging their fragile egos when they criticize some really basic stuff. You have to get your teeth knocked in, metaphorically speaking, just to make sure you try harder. It's a lot like dating. We might think we're perfectly normal until we run into enough failed relationships to say, maybe I'm the asshole. Only then can real personal growth happen. The writer has to work harder. They realize that their mastery of the English language only takes them so far, and now they can start breaking those rules, playing with language, and getting out of the game of trying to guess what an editor of whatever rag they are sending their stuff to actually wants. Plenty of people have told me that they love my writing. Good luck getting an editor of one of those big publishers to offer me a book deal. We don't get invited to the same kind of parties, you see. You aren't a mind reader. All you can do is write the best story you can. Cut the bullshit. Try to find your own voice instead of copying your favorite person. And by sheer dumb luck, the right editor will resonate with your story and probably buy it. Don't pander. Don't pad your manuscripts. And don't do it because you expect wealth and fame. You have to do it because not doing it might kill you. Or you can start a podcast, YouTube channel, and self-publish whatever the hell you want because you're just as sick of seeing what's out there as everybody else. It hasn't evolved much past Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, or Tom Clancy in the last 20 years anyway. You might as well bring in something new. With that kind of confidence, you can be your own indie publisher. Not too long ago, those kind of people were changing the world. They still can, and you still can. The biggest challenge to ego has to be the moment when you put your work out there for other people to read or hear. You never know if it's any good until you have to show it to someone else. At the very least, if my work is boring, people might use it as an ASMR track to help them get to sleep. Or maybe it's not all that great, but it can get better. You never know until you try. That's my plan anyway. You might be asking yourself, who is this guy to be giving me advice? I'm nobody. I'm just like you. Somebody who's just trying, and someone who's looking for answers. But I can tell you one thing, I'm not going to wait for someone who's already reached the top to throw me a rope and pull me the rest of the way up. Instead, think of me as someone who's still clipped in, just like you, climbing the cliff right with you. I think we can get a lot further if we help each other out and support each other. A lot further than we can waiting for somebody who's already made it to the top and hoping they remember the rest of us who are still working our way up. So once again, that was 60 Miles from Anywhere. If you like my podcast, please let me know. I hope it helps you sleep, and I hope that it was at least useful. I appreciate all my listeners, and I hope to bring you decent content, and I hope I get better every time. So have a great day. Keep writing. Don't lose faith. Don't lose heart. And there's somebody out there just like you that wants this, and they're going to try to get it, and they're not going to let anybody take it away from them. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.